with any savings, such as an emergency fund, I would say don't just put in a traditional savings account. It's important to not spend more money than you have. Treat the credit card like cash. Buying groceries, use your credit card. Dining out, use a credit card. If you're out with friends, offer to pick up the check, have them Venmo you, you earn all the rewards. It's a little tougher when all your friends are also into the credit card rewards. Sometimes play a little credit card roulette, see who's the lucky one. But yes, credit card rewards do open up this whole world of travel that might be aspirational otherwise and not realistic.
Investors, welcome back to another go round of Masters of the Market. Of course, as you know, every week we are going over economic insights and brand new dividend stock ideas. However, in this episode of Masters of the Market, we're going to go in a little bit of a different direction here because I have an incredible guest with me, Benji Stawski, who's actually an editor at a major media company, and he was previously a reporter at the Points Guy. Now, what made me invite Benji onto the show here, onto Masters of the Market, is actually because of one specific question that I've been asking every investor who's joined me here, which was, what are the steps before we actually get invested? And so there's no better guest, no better speaker here with me than Benji to talk all about personal finance. So Benji, I want to welcome you to Masters of the Market. I want to thank you for joining me. And I want to pass the mic right over to you and first ask you just what's your background? What's your backstory? How'd you get to where you are today?
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to be here. So, just to tell you a bit more about myself, I've always been an avid traveler, starting from a young age. I was living between Germany and the US, so traveling a lot, doing a lot of taking a lot of flights, was earning a lot of miles, and then starting from a young age, I was basically the travel agent for my family, booking our flights and trying to get us the most bang from our buck. How can we start using our points and miles and maximizing these rewards that we earned? Then in 2016, I started freelancing for the Points Guy and some other websites. I was covering all things points, miles, credit cards, travel, aviation. Basically, what I wanted to do is share my tips and expertise with a wider audience. And I started that while still in college. I was at Bentley University doing business, not journalism, but was doing this journalism gig on the side. Eventually, when I graduated, I started writing full time. Now, like you mentioned, I'm an editor at a major media company where we teach people how to like maximize their credit card rewards, as well as just be smarter with their personal finances in general. So we cover everything from savings accounts, investing products, insurance products, loans, you name it, just beginner friendly personal finance advice. And also on the side, throughout all this, I just always had a personal interest in personal finance, started investing in real estate myself. So this is something I really care about a lot.
So this begs the question, when it comes to personal finance, and as I just mentioned, right, every guest who's been on Masters of the Market, I have at some point in an interview asked them what are the steps that we should all take before investing. And so I got to now throw this question your way. If you could kind of just umbrella, summary it, what are some of the steps that we should be taking before we actually begin to invest? Because I think a lot of us want to just jump right into the market, make more money. Who doesn't? But there are steps that we should actually be taking to cover our bases before we do that.
For sure. So I'm just going to start off by saying everyone's investing journey is a little different. You first need to figure out how much exactly you want to invest, how much you're comfortable investing. It doesn't matter if you don't have a large amount. You could start with just $100, $1,000. But first, figure out exactly what you're starting off with. What is your risk tolerance? You obviously don't want to invest 100% of what you have. You need to set some goals, like a timeline. Are you investing so you have a more comfortable retirement? Are you trying to save up to buy a home soon? We're talking 5 years, 10 years, longer than that, or even shorter. So it's important to make a plan before you start. You should take advantage of all the different investing resources available. For example, if you are thinking more long term, use retirement accounts. If your employer offers a 401k match, take advantage of that. It's basically free money. And then obviously there are lots of tax benefits with that. a lot of this could be done by beginners because there are lots of ways to automate your investing. You could take advantage of robo advisors. I think ETFs are great. So instead of just picking out individual stocks, go with these portfolios that are created by experts. I think it's important to just diversify your investments. And yeah, like I said, obviously you don't want to be investing 100% of your money, but also whatever you put aside to invest, you don't have to invest it all at once. You could save some money on the side and eventually invest more. So you could take advantage of like dollar cost averaging. And yeah, just throughout all of this, it's important to just maintain an emergency fund, keep your investing money separate from your regular savings and everyday money that you need. Because yeah, well, you don't once you get all close into one account, could be messy if the market goes down a little bit. So it's
I
important
want
to have that
I
separation.
want to dig into that a little bit because you mentioned a couple times there, right? We shouldn't be investing 100% of all the money that we have saved up on the side, and then you mentioned the emergency fund, and then kind of doubled back down on don't invest everything. What does that look like? Like, is that emergency fund before we start to invest? Is that a couple $1,000s? Is it 5,000? How do we even determine how much we should have in an emergency savings fund? And should that fund just be in a traditional bank account?
Yeah, so for the emergency fund, a lot of experts recommend 3 to 6 months. That is, and could be pretty tough for a lot of people. I know like there's some stats out there about many Americans these days just living paycheck to paycheck. But basically, the emergency fund is meant to be there in case, let's say, you lose your job and it's unexpected, or some other emergency pops up and you need some quick access to cash. So that's just have this emergency fund with any savings, such as an emergency fund. I would say don't just put in a traditional savings account. There are a number of high yield savings accounts out there, mostly from the online only banks. These savings accounts offer, some of them right now offer over 5 or even 6% APRs, whereas with your traditional savings account from one of the big brick and mortar banks, you might get 0.1% or well another percentage that's well below 1%. So you do have there are safe ways to store your savings, such as the emergency savings account. With these high yield savings accounts, the online banks, even though there might not be physical locations for you to go to, they still offer the usual FDIC protections. So your money is insured, it's safe. Another option is CDs, especially now with the Fed potentially cutting rates and whatnot. A lot of people are looking at CDs because it locks in an interest rate. So that too, your investments are safe. It's not like the stock market where it could go up or down. You know exactly how much interest to expect. And yeah, so that's one advantage over the savings accounts or high yield savings accounts is with CDs, you lock in a rate. With savings accounts, that rate could change at any time.
What if you are using a high yield savings account, which bank did you go with? I know some like Ally, Capital One's another one. Which one are you with?
Yeah, so I do actually have multiple bank accounts, but like the two that you mentioned are good options. Wealthfront, this UFB savings account, that's pretty good. There's one from American Express. So there are lots of options out there. There's even one from, it's called Basque Bank. They let you choose between earning your normal interest or you could earn American Airlines miles. So if your goal for saving is because you want to save up for a big vacation, it might make sense to collect your interest in frequent flyer miles instead of just cash. So there are lots of options out there. Even Googling like best high yield savings accounts, there are lots of lists out there, and you can just compare the options. Some of these bank accounts also offer you like boosted earnings your first few months when you sign up, or let's say like you refer a friend, you might earn like 0.5%, 0.5% boost. So lots of good options out there, but it is these online banks that you want to look for the high APRs. Yeah, and the reason they're able to do this is just because they don't have those those same high overhead costs like the physical branch banks. So just because they don't pay for those branches, don't have as much staff, they pass on some of those savings to the consumers, which is nice.
Is there a way for us as, investors or customers of these banks to know which one would be ideal for us? Like how, like what? Okay, so what's the difference if I go with Ally Banker or Capital One? Right, it's actually two banks I was looking into. I'm currently with Capital One, but Ally has a pretty good interest rate that actually looks better than Capital One. Should I flip flop or like what makes you have multiple bank accounts as opposed to just one or two?
Think it's based on what features you're looking for. Some of these online only banks, such as Wealthfront, which I use, something that stands out is that they offer more than just the 250K traditional FDIC insurance. So what they do is they spread your savings basically across a couple of different partner banks. So that way they're able to increase that insurance limit. So if you are saving a large amount, you might want to go with an account that offers that. Sometimes banks, like I said, offer these bonuses for new customers. So part of the reason I have multiple accounts is just because I want to take advantage of these welcome bonuses. And then, like I mentioned, there's some accounts that offer that interest and that isn't necessarily cash. So if you are looking to earn some extra frequent flyer miles, you might open that Basque Bank savings account. Some accounts might not offer the same customer service availability. So it might just be like weekdays or as opposed to 24/7 support. So you as an individual just have to think about what is most important to you. And for a lot of people, the most important thing is just getting the highest APR. So just see who's offering the highest rate. And yeah, like I said, also this does change. This does fluctuate pretty frequently, like CDs. So one bank account could offer the highest APR one month, but not necessarily the next month.
Sure. And so you have multiple bank accounts. Is it a lot of work to like keep tabs on all of these accounts or like let's just say I want to go ahead and open three or four accounts for the welcome bonuses. Is that a lot of work? And how much really are you getting in the welcome bonuses that makes that, plan or method of attack, if you will, attractive?
Yeah, so for me, I mean, it's pretty easy to manage. I mean, it's not like I don't have over a dozen bank accounts. I do have a good amount of credit cards, but I think we'll get into that later. But no, you could download all the apps from these banks on your phone. You just make a folder with all your bank account apps. So it's pretty easy to keep track of, I think. And another benefit is it helps you just separate like your savings and checkings. And if you are saving for a certain goal, by having it different banks, you won't necessarily be tempted to touch that money or accidentally withdraw from the wrong account. So having that separation has some benefits, I would say.
And now you said you had multiple credit cards. How many credit cards do you actually have?
That's a tough question. I think right now it's maybe around eight. I
Eight
maybe
cards.
I definitely know some people that have a couple dozen. I'm still a bit younger and working on, like I said before, I have been getting into real estate and taking out some mortgages. So I'm being a bit more cautious with my credit pulls and how many credit cards I'm opening. But I think I'm around eight or nine right now.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's a growing number, and I'm there are some cards I'm thinking about opening soon, so that number will go up soon.
So some people say that having cash is all you should have and you should never get a line of credit. Other people say that's all you should use are credit cards. What's the deal? What should we be doing? Is cash better than credit? Is credit king? What are your thoughts?
So I think as long as you know how to use credit responsibly, definitely much better than just cash. The biggest benefit for me is I'm earning rewards on all my spending, just whether it's buying a pack of gum at a convenience store or booking a trip or going out for a meal. I'm earning points on all my spending that is saving me money on the long run. I'm getting a bunch of different protections. So if I buy something in a store, my credit card might offer an extended warranty protection or return protection or some insurance if it gets stolen. So I don't get any of that when I'm paying with cash. And also lots of other benefits, like I might get airport lounge access thanks to my credit card, might get a hotel upgrade. So lots of benefits with using credit cards.
So it's safe to say credit is king.
Yes, and really the big caveat there though is you have to be responsible with these credit cards. You have to pay your credit card bills when ideally when possible is in full each month on time. But if you do need to carry a balance, there are some credit cards that offer 0% APR offers, so you don't pay interest for a certain amount of time. But after that period is over, it's really important to pay off that balance because credit cards do have high interest rates, so you don't want to fall like for that trap.
And I think that's always the biggest argument, right? Is like some of these cards have 20+% interest. And then these same individuals who are, maxing out credit cards are then actually trying to tap into the stock market, make money back off of that, not realizing that they're paying an exorbitant amount in interest. But I have a question for you, Benji, when it comes to credit cards. How would we know, the best credit cards for us? Like how do we pick? There's, I mean, obviously a multitude of credit cards that are out there.
Yes, so similar to picking a savings account, you really have to think about what features are most important to you. What are you looking for from a credit card? Why are you opening a credit card? Are you looking to earn rewards? Then the next question would be ask yourself, what are you spending the most money on? Do you frequently go to restaurants? Get a credit card that offers bonus rewards at restaurants. So rather than just earning 1 point per dollar at a restaurant, you might earn 3 or 4 points per dollar. Next, it's important to think about whether you want to pay an annual fee for a credit card, because there are lots of credit cards that offer a lot more benefits for an annual fee. So you pay $100 for a credit card, and and that might be like an airline credit card where you get free check bags, or you might pay $500 for a credit card, but then you get the lounge access. So think about, if you travel frequently, maybe it's worth paying that for the lounge access. Some of these higher end, more premium credit cards with these higher annual fees come with statement credits that might make the card worth it and basically pay for itself. For example, there are some credit cards that offer Uber credits each month. There's some credit cards that just offer general travel credits. So just think about what benefits you're looking for.
And when it comes to the credit cards, when we're, I guess, using them responsibly, right? This is always key. How would you go about using the credit cards responsibly? I mean, you have 8. I think I have maybe 3 or 4. But how do you go about using credit cards responsibly? What's a good plan?
So the biggest thing there for me is just setting up autopay. So that just ensures that I'm not missing any payments, always paying my bills on time. Of course, it's still important to review your credit card statements all the time, each month. So that way you notice you're making sure there are no like unauthorized charges. It's important to not spend more money than you have. So treat the credit card like cash. It is not just unlimited amount of money right there. It's still important to spend responsibly, but for me, the easiest way to keep track is just with autopay and then reviewing the statements at the end of each month.
A bit of a curveball question for you, I guess. What is it about credit cards that allows the consumer, us, to feel as if they can spend so freely, even if we don't have it? And is there a way for us as the consumers using these cards to mitigate that risk or that, that spending spree when we go out? How do we train ourselves just to like be cognizant of not spending what we don't have?
So that is something that you kind of need to train yourself on, is to have that self-control. I recommend that people create a budget. There are lots of great budgeting apps out there that you could use so that you could control, like, I'm going to spend this much on going out to get food each month. I'm going to spend this much on gas and whatnot. So throughout the month, you're going to compare your spending to that budgeting app or that budget you created. See, are you on track? Are you spending more? And if you notice you're about to hit that limit, cut your spending. What you could try to do is, with the credit card, try to call the credit card company, see if you could set some spending limit, but that's not always possible. So I would say just download a budgeting app and try to stick to that budget.
Was the word budget for you ever restrictive? Like,
So they do sound very restrictive, but the way that I approach them is to not go like 100% by them. So even you with this rule, like, are you really sticking to 10% here, 20% there? Maybe yes, maybe not. If someone customizes the plan to be like 13% here or 22% here, that's okay. So I think it's important to have a little bit of flexibility and like customize and tailor the plan to work for you. So obviously it's important to have that budget, but personal finances are different for everyone. Not everyone will have just 100% clear cut rule or budget to follow.
sure. Now, here's a fun one for you because you've obviously, amassed a lot of points whether it was early childhood to present with credit cards, and you've been able to travel. For everybody out there watching, Benji has a phenomenal Instagram page full of his travels. You got to go check it out after this chat, or even while you're watching the chat. Definitely an amazing page to show you the power of using your credit cards and then the points to actually do travel right, I'll say. But my question for you here is it really possible for someone to travel the world on points?
Yes. So I wouldn't say that it's 100% free because there are always some small taxes and fees that you need to pay. But yes, credit card rewards do open up this whole world of travel that might be aspirational otherwise and not realistic for a lot of people. So I've traveled a ton using my credit card rewards for very little out of pocket. You do need to spend obviously some money on your credit cards to earn the rewards or to meet a welcome bonus. A welcome bonus might have a spending requirement. So you do need to spend a little bit, but the way that you reach those spending requirements or earn those rewards is to just put all your everyday expenses on your credit cards. So when you are buying groceries, use your credit card. Dining out, use a credit card. If you're out with friends, offer to pick up the check, have them Venmo you, you earn all the rewards. It's a little tougher when all your friends are also into the credit card rewards. Sometimes play a little credit card roulette, see who's the lucky one, get the rewards that day. But yeah, there's even a credit card on the market now that lets you pay your rent with a credit card for no fee, and they basically pay your landlord for you. So you're earning points on your rent, which is for many people their biggest monthly expense. So yes, credit cards do earn valuable rewards, and you could travel the world, potentially business or first class for very little out of pocket.
Have you had that experience, like first class, business class, traveling to destinations just solely through points?
I have many times, and it's tough that like once you fly business or first class, it's tough to go back. Obviously, I'm all for the best deal, and sometimes the best deal is in economy. So do still fly economy, but no, I've had some great flights that booked completely with points and miles. And the biggest thing here to maximize your points and miles is to take advantage of transfer partners. So many of the top travel rewards credit cards let you transfer your points to an airline or hotel loyalty program. So rather than just using your points directly through the bank, booking a flight through them, you book it to an airline and they might even have partners that, and then you book your flight that way. So if let's say I transfer my credit card points to British Airways, then I get British Airways miles and I can use those miles to fly American Airlines because British Airways and American are partners. So it's
Wow.
important to be strategic with how you transfer the points and taking advantage of the airline partnerships.
Now, when you were traveling, right, you're always traveling. I feel like when I see your Instagram, is that's all points. How long does it take you to actually generate the amount of points necessary to fly?
So unfortunately, I don't have a clear answer on that. It all depends on my spending in a certain month, or if let's say I open a credit card, opening one credit card might be enough to just cover a certain ticket or trip. When I do open new cards, I usually have a goal in mind, similar to the advice I gave for opening a new starting investing or opening a new savings account. You should have a goal. If there's a certain trip that you want to book, then you're going to start opening certain credit cards. You might open a card that gets you good miles that you can use for the flights. Then you might open a second credit card to book to book the hotel. So it's possible to get enough points just for a trip in as little as like 3-ish months. So that's enough time to meet those welcome bonus requirements. But if you're spending a bit less and you're not opening a new card, it could take longer than that. So it all depends on how much you're spending each month and if you're really maximizing your credit card strategy. Are you using the right card for the right type of purchase? Like, are you using the right card for grocery stores or restaurants? So it depends, but people could get started in as little as a few months.
Now, you having opened up, and I would assume, dozens of cards over the span of time, and now still having 8 cards, is it acceptable to, I guess, eventually rip up those credit cards?
When you open a credit card, you start building this credit history. So the longer you have a card, the better it is for your credit history and credit score. So even if there's a card they don't use as much, put it in the back of your sock drawer. It's fine. Just keep it, don't use it, or just put a small transaction on it every so often just so the card stays active. But yes, you should not be try not to cancel credit cards. If a credit card has an annual fee, so that you don't want to continue paying, what you could do is call the credit card issuer, see if you could downgrade that card to a no annual fee card. So you're not paying a fee to keep it. But yes, you could keep cards even if you're not using them, and that will ultimately be better for your credit score.
Will my credit score be impacted if I have too many cards?
As long as you're using them responsibly, no. If anything, it's actually good to have more credit cards because then you have a larger overall like total of credit available. So that shows that these banks all trust you with this money. You have access to this really high credit limit. So it's actually better for your score because then if you're spending less money, you'll have a lower credit utilization rate. So you look better to the issuers that way. So it's actually a good thing to have more cards.
And now when I have all these cards and some are sitting in the back of the sock drawer, some are in my wallet, you recommend having each of them give rewards, or some of them is it acceptable just to have, just a flat credit card?
No, so it all depends on your goals with why you're opening this credit card. So if you are trying to get out of debt, like I mentioned, there are some credit cards that offer these generous 0% intro APR periods. That is something you're looking to take advantage of. Some of those cards don't earn any rewards, but it's still fine to get those cards because you're doing that to save on the interest charges. So you might have that card. Then maybe you're trying to get some cash back on certain purchases. You can have a cashback card. If you're trying to earn miles, and when I say points and miles, I mean like travel rewards. That might be a different card. Not every card will necessarily earn like points, and that's okay because as long as you're getting other benefits that are useful.
So I want to now jump back a little bit to talking about debt, because that's a big one, whether it's with credit cards or not with credit cards, but just having debt. And a lot of investors, at least when I'm speaking, on investors, masters of the market, we always talk about debt and how to kind of go about combating debt before you get invested. I'd love to know your take from the personal finance perspective and all of the experience that you've had, whether it's writing or helping others with combating debt. What are the go-to steps to really level off your debt and make sure you're zeroed out so then you can properly proceed?
So the first step is I would say try to consolidate your debt, see what different debt you have. So like the multiple loans or if there's credit card debt, pay off whatever has the highest interest rate first. If it makes sense, there are lots of like debt consolidation loans out there. So you could combine a lot of this debt into one. That just makes it easier to track sometimes. If you have this high credit card debt where you're paying that 20+% interest that you mentioned before, it could make sense to open a personal loan, which has a lower interest rate. So use the money from the personal loan to pay off the credit card, then pay off the personal loan, which has a lower interest rate. So there's that as an option. If it gets to the point, there are some debt consolidation services out there, and there are services that will even negotiate your debt for you. At first, try to avoid that because doing so could also hurt your credit score a little bit. But I'd say first, try to move any high interest debt to a lower interest loan, and then just start paying off the one with the highest interest first.
Now, we all know about credit scores, or at least I want to say a vast majority of people know about credit scores. But can you talk a little bit about what the credit score really is and why it matters so much for everybody, whether we're investing, whether we're not investing, whether we have a credit card or whether we don't? Why is a credit score important?
Yes, so it's very important to have a good credit score. It gives you better approval rates for everything from both credit cards, but also mortgages. If you want to buy a home, even when you're renting a home, they check your credit. And it also gives you access to better terms, lower interest rates, gives you more purchasing and negotiating power. Let's say you're getting a new car, you're looking for car financing, auto financing, better credit score, the better. You will have better approval rates for these premium credit cards with more robust benefits. Even some employers may look at your credit score to see if you are a trustworthy, reliable candidate. They want their employers to be responsible, and one way is by having a good credit score. And it's very important to point out that like you could start building credit very at a very young age, like very early on. Even though you might not have a credit score until you turn 18, you could be asked to be added as an authorized user, maybe under your parents' credit card or another trusted individual. Um, so that way, when you do turn 18, you already will have some credit history as long as that credit card was paid off always like on time. And I think that was also very helpful for me. I was able to get a mortgage at age 22 to buy my first piece of real estate. I think one
Wow.
reason for that was because I convinced my mom to add me as an authorized user on one of her credit cards when I was still in high school, not 18 years old yet. Um, so that definitely helped.
Can you share more about that experience? At 22, you got your first mortgage. What was the rate? Like, how did that all work for you?
Yes, so I mean, one, I did save up a lot of money for a long time. I was working in high school and college and whatnot, so I did have some savings for that down payment that I needed. Getting the mortgage, yes, the application was there were like a lot of questions, but it was pretty similar just applying for another credit card. A lot of it was just sharing a lot of like personal info about my finances. Obviously, they ran my credit. I had a very good credit score, and I was lucky. It was during the pandemic when interest rates were very low, so that was a big reason also for why it was possible for me at that age um, to get the mortgage that I got. Yeah, so it is possible. There's no real, as long as you have a credit score, as long as you're 18, like there are no real requirements. Like anyone could ultimately get a mortgage, and there are lots of banks with special programs, even if you do want to give a put down like a lower down payment and whatnot. So, and there are lots of like benefits also for first time home buyers. So it is possible. Don't let a young age scare you or think it's not possible.
So, Benji, I'd love to know, what do you think that some of the biggest misconceptions are when it comes to personal finance? Or even if you want to go in this direction, the most common mistakes that people are making, whether they're young, in their elder years, what are some of these mistakes?
So for one, it's never too late to start getting a better control of your personal finances, whether that is getting started with investing or opening a credit card. It's never too late. I think a lot of people at a minimum, or honestly, everyone at a minimum, should have a high yield savings account as opposed to just the regular savings account at your brick and mortar bank. That's just because it's literally free money. You're leaving out a lot of interest payments on the table. Otherwise, take advantage of that higher APR. The money's insured. That value will never go down. Beyond that, I think it's important for people to not be afraid to get started with investing. Like I mentioned, there are robo advisors where it's you basically just deposit some money, you tell the app what your risk tolerance is, and they basically invest your money for you. Same as like ETFs and whatnot. You don't obviously you need to do some research, but it's not like you need to be a total expert in the markets to necessarily invest in them. Beyond that, another misconception is a lot of people think credit cards are just bad and will just end up leading to debt. But I think if you're strategic and smart about using your credit cards responsibly, you could definitely benefit from them and earn these rewards for all that free travel and get lots of other useful perks like the lounge access, hotel upgrades, and whatnot.
Do you think a lot of wealthier individuals are using credit cards over cash? Like when you're flying first class or business class, are a lot of these other individuals also flying first class and business? You think using points, or are they just very wealthy and using cash?
So it's a mix. I think a lot of these more affluent people are definitely using credit cards. However, how they're actually booking their flights varies. So they might be booking their flights with points, but this goes back to when I was talking about how you should redeem your points. So they might be just booking their flights directly through the credit card portal, and just buying their ticket and getting like a fixed value, fixed rate for their points. But they're not taking advantage of the best redemption opportunities where I might be flying that same seat, also using my credit card points, but I paid a fraction of the price because I took advantage of those transfer partners where they charge lower redemption rates. So it's just very important to be smart about how you're using your points. A lot of people might just redeem their points for cash back or a gift card, but you don't necessarily get as much value from your points. So if you are redeeming for cash back, you might get around 1 cent per point or even less. But when I'm redeeming my points through transfer partners for travel, I could be getting 2 or 3 or even more cents per point, like in value. So it's all about how you're using your points. I do think a lot of people these days do use credit cards, but not necessarily maximizing the potential.
And now, so looking back when it comes to your personal journey and how far you've come from experience, personal finance, using the credit cards, whether it was at the Points Guy, which I believe when I first met you, you were at the Points Guy, and now you're at this larger media company. But looking back on all this experience, everything you've learned so far, what would you say now, looking back, would be one or two things that you would have tweaked for your earlier years to have put you in a better place today?
That's really tough. I would say one thing for me that I didn't really take advantage soon enough was high yield savings accounts. So it was more in like recent years when the interest rates came up, where I was like, I need to open a high yield savings account. I should have been doing that way sooner. Um, I think that's my biggest thing, and especially because of how easy these high yield savings accounts are to use. They are safe, like they are insured. There's no real risk with them. That's my biggest thing that wish I would have done a little differently.
Sure, just the high yield savings. And right now, what bank? You said you're at a couple different banks when it comes to high yield savings, correct?
Correct.
Do you have a personal favorite or one that you have more money in than the other?
I mean, I used Wealthfront a lot just because of the app is very user friendly, and like I said, these high yield savings accounts interest rates do change pretty often. So Wealthfront, there was a time when they had one of the higher rates. Now, I think there are some other accounts that have higher rates, but sometimes when it's a very small difference, it's not always worth the hassle of moving the funds from one account to the next. So I just feel comfortable there. Like I have, um, they tend to be have one of the higher APRs, not necessarily always the highest, but and like I've had some things where I need to reach out to the customer service, and their support team has been pretty responsive. So they've been good to me. I have been looking at UFB's high yield savings account more recently. They've been offering some really good rates. I've also been considering the savings account where you earn American Airlines miles. That's from Basque Bank. I do like to fly American Airlines a lot, so I'm thinking that might be good for me. Really, there are lots of great options out there.
And I got a fun question for you here. In the difference between flying first class, business class, and economy, what's it feel like to fly first class? What's it offer? And should we all be striving for first class when we fly?
Yes, so I mean, one, even if you don't necessarily need all like the bells and whistles of first class, if it's a shorter domestic flight, I think it's always worth looking at the price difference because sometimes the price difference might not be that large. And if let's say you're checking a bag, which could cost $30 or $40, um, and you like to select your seat, which sometimes costs extra as well, it could be worth just paying the $100 for that upgrade to first class for a short domestic flight. Even though the seat itself might not be that different, just because of these perks that you get. But for me, I mean, the most obvious difference is obviously a more comfortable seat. If you're smart about picking the planes, get planes with flat beds. You obviously get more personalized service, better food, better drinks, the lounge access. before the flight. But I mean, even in economy, I think you could do some homework and some research to pick the best seat in economy. So I mean, I always try to book the emergency exit row, but there are even some standard economy seats where you might have a little extra legroom because there might not be a seat in front. Um, and there might be some seats in economy that aren't as good because they might be like missing a window because it's misaligned, or certain seats, like the seats in front of the exit row, they don't recline. So obviously, first class is very nice, but if you do a little bit of research on the plane that you're going to fly, I think you could still have a comfortable experience in economy and come prepared. If you know it's an airline that doesn't offer free food and drinks, pack a snack from home or buy a drink in the terminal before. So it's all about doing your research before.
And now, from all your experience traveling, and again, the Instagram page that you've had, that I've been following and living vicariously through you on a lot of your trips, could you share one story or two stories of some of the top, your most favorite trips that you've had thus far? How you got to amass the points, how much, how many points you had to actually earn those trips, where you went, the whole spiel on your most favorite trip.
It's a very tough question. I've definitely had a lot of very amazing trips, and every trip is kind of great for its own reasons. For example, Japan, specifically Tokyo, is one of my favorite places in the world. Been there 2 times now. The most recent time was like a trip with my mom, it was a mother son trip. I did get a very good deal on the flights there, but that was just its own special trip because of who I was traveling with, my mom and whatnot. I've had some other flights, which were just amazing deals. So I live in New York. I'm originally from Los Angeles. I frequently fly to New York and LA to visit family. For a while, there was this really great way to book American Airlines first class flights through Etihad Guest. So Etihad, the Abu Dhabi based airline, because they had this partnership. So I could transfer like 25,000 of my credit card points to Etihad to book this American Airlines flight. 25,000 miles is worth, depending on how you redeem them, could be worth $250, or I value them usually at about $500. American Airlines usually charges $1,000 or even more one way for that ticket. So that's always been a great deal for me. They unfortunately raised the rates a little bit, so it's not as good of a deal anymore. But I like that because I got a great deal with the points. It's American Airlines first class from New York to LA. It's the only airline that offers a true first class domestically because all the other airlines just offer like business and economy. American offers first, business, and economy. So it's an extra special experience when you're on the ground. There's this super exclusive lounge they have access to. It has like its own little restaurant that only these first class passengers could go to. So I really like that. I've also booked some cheap business class flights to Europe using Iberia miles, which I got through my credit card. So yeah, it's very tough to like pinpoint like a favorite trip. I do have some like redemptions like these that just stood out some more, but at the end of the day, it's all about the overall trip and like the destination as well. So love Tokyo. Israel has a very special place in my heart. So those trips are always great, even though it's sometimes harder to book flights to Israel using points. Still love traveling there.
Sure. Sure. Now I got one last question for you, Benji. And typically when I have the masters of the market chats, but I always ask investors who pop on with me is, well, if I were to give them 10,000 virtual dollars, what stock would they invest it into? But in your case, just given you're almost the points guy, right? Or you're a member of the team and you're quite frequently traveling, I want to ask you, if you were to pick just one credit card to open up, to use, and to rack up the points, what credit card would it be? And then, depending on what points you're getting, what would you do with those points after spending, let's say, the $10,000 with that credit card?
Oh, that is tough because I would say even with $10,000, you could open multiple credit cards, get multiple welcome bonuses, invest part of that for that part of that high yield savings account. But we're just gonna stick to one credit card. I think the American Express Gold Card is very good for a lot of people because It has a lot of useful bonus categories. So you earn bonus points at restaurants, at grocery stores, on flights, some other travel. So the bonus categories are super useful. It's good for a lot of people that want a lot of use one card for a lot of different types of expenses, as opposed to just separate cards for groceries, for restaurants, and whatnot. It offers lots of valuable benefits. So I get like a monthly dining credit with the card. You can get an Uber credit. The card basically pays for itself. With that $10,000, I'm going to earn a big welcome bonus. Let's say we earn, this isn't the exact welcome bonus, but let's say with all that spending, we're going to earn 100,000 points. That'll be enough to fly. We could fly to Europe in business class. Maybe even depending on the deal we get, we could squeeze in a couple hotel nights on those points. That those cheap business class flights to Europe using Avios that I mentioned, you could transfer Amex American Express points to that airline. So we could do that. We could take advantage of some flight deals through Air France, KLM, their flying food program. They always have some good deals. But yeah, I think the one card, first one that came to my mind is the American Express Gold card. But like I said, there are lots of other great options out there, like the Chase Sapphire, Preferred, and Reserve are both really good travel cards. Capital One has been releasing some new travel cards, specifically in the premium travel credit card space. And yeah, it's great cards like if you want lounge access. But the one card would be the American Express Gold card for me.
There you have it, investors. We heard it here first from Benji Stawski. We would go with the American Express Gold card. If you don't have the card already, Benji is giving it away. No, Benji, look, it was an incredible honor to have you on Masters of the Market with us. And of course, I've asked that question so many times, what to do before we actually get invested. And in your specialty, when it comes to using credit cards and learning personal finance, it has just been, again, very insightful conversation with you. Investors, if you're looking for more insights, got to go check out Benji's Instagram. Give him a follow as well there. You'll be able to see where he's going, what he's doing. You will live vicariously through him, just as I am. Benji, thank you again so much for joining me on Masters of the Market. And investors, until the next time, we will see you all there.